Happy January 20th. JLD here, and welcome to MicroStrategy Today. In this show, we'll be talking about Bitcoin's new all-time high, Michael Saylor meeting with the entire Trump team, what that means. It's Moonshot Monday, so we'll be focusing on the major catalysts that are coming up for MicroStrategy and how much Bitcoin will MicroStrategy acquire. Great question. Jeff Park talks about why you should never short MSTR. And Ben Workman goes into the details of Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy's genius and so much more. But remember, this video is just my opinions. It's not financial advice. And we're doing something a little new here. On days that MicroStrategy has most recently closed in the green, we are lighting our green candle and we're going to keep holding this up and keep the light going until it goes out. So let's go for the green candles. Hopefully a lot of art to come in 2025. On the days that MicroStrategy is down, we'll have a red candle and then we'll blow that red candle out to kind of help with that karma a little bit. And we're going to have a lot of fun this year in 2025. So let's go ahead and dive into the story at number one, which is Bitcoin hitting an all-time high. I went to bed last night. Bitcoin was hovering right around 100,000. And I was like, it's probably kind of like a little bit of a sell the news event where, Trump's going to come in and people are going to kind of push Bitcoin down just a little bit, just because, there's been this expectation of what's going to happen in 2025. Let's sell the news. Well, the exact opposite happened. I was thrilled to wake up this morning, as I'm sure many of you were, and say $108,000 Bitcoin, a new all-time high. Of course, Bitcoin is going to be volatile. There's going to be up days, there's going to be down days, and everything in the middle. And we're here for it all, my friends. Let's get into Moonshot Monday, the MSTR Catalyst Tracker. Presidential inauguration, 0 days away. That's happening later today. The January Fed meeting is just 9 days away. In my mind, only good things can come out of this because sentiment is quite hawkish right now. So a lot of people are expecting it not to be a great meeting. So if Trump can turn it around, then we'll see what happens. 16.5 billion in repayments sent to FTX customers, just 11 days away. These individuals are sitting on their hands right now, counting down how much am I going to miss with massive FOMO. I expect a lot of them will be dumping into the markets. MSTR Q4 2024 10K earnings report is just 20 days away. I cannot wait for this. I am literally, this is what I have circled on my calendar. It's going to be a great day. Michael Saylor is going to put on an absolute masterclass, so buckle up for that. Punter Jeff says, in first BART to new all-time high. Bitcoin starting to move like a $5 trillion asset. Buckle up, about to get crazy. And this is one thing that Jeff talks about a lot when it comes to both MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. He talks about them already acting like bigger assets than they actually are. Like right now, Bitcoin's a little bit over $2 trillion assets. And the fact that it's going to go to, or that it's acting like a $5 trillion asset, so more than 2x what it already is acting like that. That's important information. Just like MicroStrategy is acting like much more than just a $100 billion asset. In fact, it's often in the top 5 of all volume in the world when it comes to daily trades, which is insanity when it's ranked like around 100. So it is not acting like a 100th ranked asset. It's acting like a top 5 ranked asset, and that's the direction that we all believe it's moving towards. Let's talk about a little update from the MicroStrategist ballistic model. He posted a little while ago, and there she blows. As the MSTR price, because the market's closed, is at 397, and because Bitcoin hit up at 109,000 earlier today, that gave an implied model, according to this model, of $520, which means that right now MicroStrategy is undervalued by 23.8%. Again, this is his model. Marty's doing some great work, but at the end of the day, models are what they are. They're just modeling possibilities. But I love this model, and we'll keep on reporting on it for sure. Next post I want to focus on is from Bitcoin Archive. Just in, Michael Saylor met with the whole Trump administration cabinets. I mean, when you have somebody like Michael Saylor being able to speak his speak, being able to talk his talk, being able to share his genius with the entire Trump administration cabinet, who's going to be ruling the roost for the next 4 years, to me, only good things can come from that. Let's talk about BitStrategy's post. MicroStrategy accumulation rate scales with Bitcoin price increase. No other business model can compete. Absolute abundance layered on top of absolute scarcity. I want to read this last sentence one more time. Absolute abundance layered on top of absolute scarcity. That is a phrase that I love. And for those people that are really understanding and absorbing what that means, what MicroStrategy is doing by continuing to convert fiat money into Bitcoin, wow, you are not bullish enough. Another great post from BitStrategy I wanted to focus in on. When we ask the question, how many Bitcoin will MicroStrategy end up with? We imply 3 possible assumptions. 1, the rising price of Bitcoin will slow MicroStrategy's ability to acquire Bitcoin. Or 2, Bitcoin will at some point no longer be for sale. Or 3, insolvency/change of strategy. These 3 possible assumptions can be inferred, as there is no other reason to suggest an endpoint in MicroStrategy's ability to accumulate Bitcoin other than the hard cap of 21 million. Let's think about each assumption one by one. Most people believe that Bitcoin will always be available for sale, just at higher prices, as long as USD exists. That rules out number 2. Most MST shareholders believe we will remain a going concern and continue on with our Bitcoin strategy. That rules out number 3, in which case we're left with assumption number 1. It seems most people believe the rising price of Bitcoin will slow down MicroStrategy's ability to acquire more units. This is not what the data shows. As the price rises, we have been able to acquire Bitcoin even faster. The only way our stack stops growing is if people stop selling. Nothing, I repeat, nothing can stop this train. Amen, brother. Preach on. Let's go. All right, I've got 2 great videos. One by Jeff Park saying why you should never, never short MicroStrategy. And then another from Ben Workman just sharing his genius on a topic that we both love, MicroStrategy. Take it away, boys.
Anyone who is short MicroStrategy needs to take a step back and take a bit of a more neutral stance, even if you don't believe in the long thesis of MicroStrategy, is that it has all the makeups of the components that make it very dangerous to short. So rule number 1, you never want to short very volatile things. MicroStrategy's volatility is profoundly higher than almost anything else that exists in the marketplace today. That's just the technical fact. 2, you don't want to short things where the other side are manic loyalists, like really diehard fans. So this is maybe in reference to something like a Tesla, where no matter how fundamentally at one point in time you thought that business might have been challenged from every aspects of bottoms up financial fundamental analysis, you should really not short things where the fans and the manics are on the other side in a very fervent way. And the third thing, and this is the big picture, you don't ever really want to short things against secular trends. So, Netflix, once upon a time, people would have thought was extremely overvalued, but the reality is streaming was a secular trend. And no matter where you thought the demand and supply would meet for the price to be considered value, you do not want to short things in a long-term basis of those types. And what, to me, MicroStrategy represents as a secular trend is the institutionalization of Bitcoin. And so if you have any belief that Bitcoin is going to become institutionalized, you should definitely not short MicroStrategy.
Bitcoin's no longer this, fringe speculative asset anymore. You're starting to see nations talk about it, including the nation with the reserve currency of the world, right? The United States is now talking actively about it. They're looking at adopting this digital capital for themselves to strengthen the country.
MicroStrategy is like a vacuum, just sucking up all fiat liquidity and refining that dirty cash into Bitcoin. That sounds like an extremely profitable business model.
MicroStrategy having to be the leader, really the first company to take this step to say, what if we pivot some of our focus away from what our core business model has been? What if we could take our model and we could apply leverage to our business to acquire more Bitcoin in excess of what we could get just purchasing our cash. And what if we could engineer enhanced volatility? Bitcoin was a 60 volatility asset. Most equities in the United States would fall into like the 15 to 20 volatility. So it's significantly more volatile than traditional equities are. And what MicroStrategy did was they looked at that and said, volatility is what generates returns for institutional capital. They need to be able to trade. They need an asset that moves around a lot.
Saylor kind of went from necessity to conviction to, hey, I see this opportunity, to this business model pivot, to now like relentless execution.
They're using all the tools at their disposal to accelerate their accumulation of digital capital. But it also opens new doors for MicroStrategy. That's been just, I think, mind-blowing for a lot of people, both other corporations, retail investors, to kind of reevaluate how they see these companies that are introducing Bitcoin into their ecosystem.
There has to be some sort of inflection point where there are enough people, institutions that realize they need to do something.
It's really tough to price in what could happen when one of the major world powers starts publicly announcing that they're acquiring Bitcoin. You can't wait for that. Not for this type of strategy, not if you want to accumulate as much digital capital as possible. So I think 2025 is really going to be the year where we see this accelerate.
And there you have it, another episode of MicroStrategy Today. And if you got value from today's episode, please comment below where you're watching from, what you're thinking about. Your comments are very valuable, so thank you in advance. And then also make sure to click this subscribe button right below me as soon as that pops up. And these two videos over here will be very helpful if anybody wants to learn more about MicroStrategy. We have a whole series on mastering MicroStrategy where we're taking specific topics and doing a deep dive into them. We have a lot of fun with that. And remember, it's going to be a fun week. It's going to be a fun year, and that there is no second best.
What's the second best? There is no second best.